Hey guys, welcome back. So our fence is up and so is the gate. So now it's time to work on the arbor above the gate and some of the other little small things to really finish it off and make the fence look nice. Alright, so we're going to create our arbor now. So what we want to do is try to create some sort of a bend. So we need something to use for a curve. In this case, I've got a small bucket that the boys' chalk comes into. And I've created a couple markers. I know that the 1 foot and the 4 foot, or excuse me, the 1 foot and the 5 foot mark on here is where the inside of our fence is going to be, our inside of our gate area. So I want to make sure that when that's it there, the outside of the gate area is going to be at 8.5 inches. That's going to be 3.5 inches out. So I want everything to be within the 8.5 inches. I measured this out and I figured out that if I do a partial circle at the 3-inch mark here, if I use this bucket for the boys' chalk and do this partial circle and end it at the 3-inch mark, come down here, line it up, and I go from the 3 all the way down to the 6-inch mark and stop, I can then end this out by going from the 6-inch to about 7.5. Once that's done, you're left with this very nice curved bend for the top of the arbor. Now we're going to mimic that over here, and then we're going to start cutting it out. And now we're going to do it again. Now I'm going to mark where the 1 foot and the 5 foot mark are and put a line there, and that's where I'm going to line these up when I actually attach them to the back of the back gate area. Now again, those marks are going to be the inside of where the gate is, where the 4x6s are at this mark. Now we're going to be cutting spindles to go over the top of this, but first thing I want to do is mark where I want the center of the spindles are going to be, and that's going to be at every 6 inches between the 1 foot and the 5 foot marker. So I'm going to every 6 inches put a mark, and that is where a spindle is going to end up going. So that'll give us a total of 9 spindles that are going to run across here. Alright, so the first thing we're going to be doing is cutting all these spindles. So 36 inches, we're going to cut them in half so they end up being 18 inches long. That's first, and then we'll make our next measurements for our next cuts and get it all set. So I'll mark each one of these at 18 inches, and then we'll get them cut. Next thing we want to do is put a 30-degree mitered edge on it. I'm right-handed, and I like to come in from the left. So I'm going to move it to 30 degrees to the right, and that's where I'm going to do my edge. So the top of each one of these spindles is going to be this outer portion. So we're going to make our cut here, then we're going to flip it so the same cut is mimicked the same direction on the other side. Let me start it up. So in the end, the top of the spindle is going to look like this. You're going to have a 30-degree mitered edge on top. All right, so to figure out where the bottom of this arbor is going to go, I figured out from the bottom of the fence line here all the way up to this point here is 7 feet. And I think that's about high enough. 7 foot marker is actually right here. It raises up about another 4 inches. So I think that's a good spot. So that's a 7 foot marker. Then all the way at the top, I measured out the boards of the arbor. That's where that's gonna, the bottom portion, this is gonna be the bottom, that's gonna be the top of the arbor. That gives us another 5 inches on top. So we're actually gonna cut that off. But before I do that, I'm gonna make sure that everything is level here. I'm going to make the same measurements so we have it as the same height. So the two cuts are gonna be slightly different. I'm gonna be taking a little bit more off the top here than I am over here. All right, so what I did, I'm gonna pre-drill and put a couple of screws in here, so once I get it level up on the post, I can just drill it right in. So what I've done is, I know it's a 4x6 and it's roughly 3.5 inches wide. This is an inch, so this is the this is gonna be the innermost portion of the board, is this line right here. This is gonna actually be the halfway point. That's gonna be 1 3/4 of an inch from the baseline. So I'll put a couple screws in here, and I'll do the same on the other side, and once I get it level, I can just sink them in immediately. I'm gonna create bracers. They're gonna be lined up exactly with that line. These are gonna go on here, and then when I go to put these boards on, they're gonna be level with this. They're gonna be level straight across, and I can get it all set up so it's all level. It'll be a little bit easier to lift it that little bit than lifting it and holding it in place for several feet off the ground. I needed any? Now it's at this point what we're gonna do is not only make sure that it's level up top, but we have to make sure it is level going north and south, just because we want to make sure it's plump. So our spindles will sit up there correctly. Now to make sinking all of these in just a little bit easier, what we're going to do is pre-drill all the holes for the screws to go into, just to make sure we don't have any issues when we're sinking it in. The top of this arbor is approximately 8.5 inches, so I measured 4 3/4 inches in from the ends of the spindle to find out where the outside of this is going to be, and I made my drill marks from there. And like always, it just makes it easier if you pre-drill everything and then get the screws in there right away. That way when you get up there, it's real simple just to get everything in really quickly. Especially since we're working up on a ladder. Now that we're affixing the spindles to the top of the arbor, I have those marks for the end of the board, so I know exactly where to line it up. So I just make sure that my line is even with the end of the boards, and then I make sure it's centered on the little marks that I made. We've got our fence done, we've got our gates and arbors done. Now we're going to be doing some of the finishing touches. We got a few things that we're going to be doing over the next couple days, and we're going to start out by putting our toppers on the fence posts that go all the way around. We're going to measure each one of them to find out their height, from the top of the fence to the top of the 4x4. From there, we are going to find the shortest one, and then we're going to take all the 4x4s and cut them to that height. So all the way around, our 4x4s will be the exact height. So when we put our toppers on top of the 4x4, which will be a solar light, which I'll show you in just a few moments, they will have, they'll look uniform all the way around. So we're gonna go through, we're gonna measure them all, and then what we're gonna do is write the actual dimensions directly on the 4x4. So we're gonna get started on that first. All measured. This one's gonna be our shortest at 14.5 inches. Now that I know the shortest fence post is at 14.5 inches, I'm going to measure each one of the fence posts from the top of the fence up 14.5 inches, mark it, and then get them all cut to size. Now everything's cut. Now we're gonna attach all of our solar lights. We got these from Walmart. They are Better Homes and Garden. It's a 4-pack of 10 lumen solar lights. They're gonna go right on top, and they're easily affixed with just a couple of screws. They are in a warm light and should be pretty easy to assemble. Included in this box, you're gonna have the light. You're gonna have a couple of screws and looks like some anchors. And then you're gonna have a couple different settings. These settings are gonna be basically adapters. These are going to be for a flat piece and then for like a 6x6. I don't need any of these. And as for the screws, you're really only going to need about 2 of the screws, the small ones. But before we get started, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this off and remove our little pull tab, which makes it so the light will work. Then we're just going to pop it right back on. And it's ready to go. Now, one of the things I'm going to recommend to you is that I was having a little bit of difficulty. I put one up and I had a little bit of difficulty getting the screw in. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do a little pilot hole for the screws because it's so small to actually attach it. So we're going to do a little pilot hole once we get it up there, and then the screws just sink in real easy. Now we're going to start assembling the wire. Now the cable I'll be using is a stainless steel 1/4-inch deck railing cable, and it comes with a cutter. I bought 150 feet of it. I bought it off of Amazon. I'll leave a link for it and everything else I'm about to discuss in the description below. Alright, now for the actual kit for hanging the wire. This is what I got. So this system actually allows you to put one end into each one of these, and it's a hollow tube, just like this, and this screws in. Now, the reason they're packaged 2 different ways is simply because the threads on this side are going the opposite direction of this one. So when you screw it in, you're screwing in the same direction on both sides. So you can keep track. If you do a full turn here, you do a full turn over here. So you can keep track of it to make sure the actual cable in between doesn't get all twisted up. So that is what this is for. Now, it does have a little lip right here that you can actually affix everything to, and it comes with a little wrench. But what I find is this little wrench doesn't actually fully work. It doesn't fit in this way, and this doesn't work this way. It kind of catches, but not really. So my remedy for that is just an adjustable crescent wrench. That way you can fix it right on and do your full twists, and you can adjust on and off a lot easier. Now, just to make sure you get it on pretty easy, one of the things it comes with is your own drill bit. This drill bit is a perfect size for these screws, so you can screw it in with ease. Now, the last thing I had to pick up for this was a crimper, because it doesn't allow for that. It doesn't just sink in. So once you put the cable into the hole, you'll put it into the crimper, crimp it closed, and it'll hold the cable in place. So when you put the cable in, it's going to go all the way to the end, right to this flat part right here. And if you look at this, it is about a 1/2 inch from the last thread to the end of where your cable is going to go. So if you do that on both ends, you're going to have to subtract 1 full inch from your entire length here. So being that I have 8 feet ½ inch, I'm going to be going 7 feet 11.5 inches for my cable. So I'm installing this 4 inches from the top here down, and then I'm going through with a level and a square just to make sure. And make sure that everything here and here is even. So I'll line it up, and it is. So I know that this hole is in line with this hole over here, and then I'll mimic that over here. But I want to be able to do this first. I want this hole and this hole to match. So before I drill any of these holes, I'm going to ensure that my crosshair here and this here are the same, doing the same technique, finding center. Center here is 1 3/4 inches, so I find center. And then I do 4 inches from the top. And I do my crosshair there, and then I do the same measurement over here. And then to ensure that that is in fact the same, in the same spacing, I'll draw a line here, and then make sure they match, and adjust accordingly to make sure that everything here is flush. Next, we're going to measure between the two boards, 8 feet ½ inch. It really is quite simple. You just pick an end, you push it all the way in until it can't go in anymore. You don't want any movement. In this case, we're going to go to position 2 here, right on the end. Do the first one. Then I go, just in case, I do a second one a little further up, just to make sure it has a good hold on it. So we're going to start off by putting it in and giving it a full turn. Just make sure it gets a good seat into there. So I have it set up so I'm always twisting away. Now we're going to set the other side. And you'll see that there is a lot of slack in the center. Now that it's set up, you can see there's a nice dip in the center, and that dip will come up as I start tightening it. So I'm going to be tightening it a little bit at a time. Alright, so this is one of our first hiccups. See how it's not level? So I did my initial measurement, you can see how off it was for the 4 inches. So when I went around and I did a full level line all the way around, this is where it actually should be. So this is where I'm going to make it, because I want everything to be even. This is how you know you've lined everything up correctly. But you can see through. Alright guys, so that is it. It's taken us a while to finally get to the point where we are now, but it is finally done. Now there will be a few other things that we're going to do to finish it up. And one of the things we're going to be doing is adding some bistro lights to the wiring. But we'll probably do that over the weekend. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. I'll leave photos for that there, as well as in the community section of our YouTube channel. Now, we did add a lock or a latch to it. That was a new addition because after all the wind that we had over the course of the last couple days, those gates were opening and slamming quite a bit. So we needed something to secure them to make sure it wouldn't blow open and eventually break. So overall, I believe everything turned out exactly like I wanted it to. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.